is the Patriots Drive Podcast.
We are all Patriots.
Where we discuss, analyze, and answer questions to all things happening in the NFL and with our New England Patriots. Now, here's your host, Cole Kelly.
Let's go!
All right, what is going on, everybody? This is Jace back with another edition of the Patriots Drive Podcast. Guys, today we're joined by a special guest. We're here with Grant. He runs Patriots Red Zone over on Instagram, so make sure you go give him a follow. But today we're going to talk about some of the combine news, some rumors coming out of the Patriots, both free agency and draft process, and then, of course, get into a 4-round mock draft. So excited to be here, joined by Grant. How's it going, man?
Going well. Appreciate the invite.
No problem. Yeah. Cole is out sick. Can't get on today, so thought we'd fill it in, still do a mock draft and stuff, and bring content for you guys. But first, kind of want to talk about some of the stuff that's going on with the Patriots and some of the rumors that were coming out, especially at the combine. Big weekend for the combine, and of course, we'll have more videos coming out on that. First thing I wanted to talk about, guys, Daniel Jeremiah said, do not sleep on the New England Patriots when he was referring to who Baker Mayfield might sign with. Now, just wanted to get your opinion. What would be your thoughts on the Patriots signing a guy like Baker Mayfield or Baker Mayfield in general to be the quarterback for next season or maybe two and still develop a quarterback or just not even draft a quarterback at all?
I feel like for Baker, he's not going to be a bridge guy. I feel like if they make a move for him specifically, that is dedicating a 3-4 year contract with upwards of, I'd say, 25 to 30, maybe even more annually, right? So I feel like they have to make one of two decisions here. Either they say, hey, look, we're going to, in free agency here, we're going to sign our quarterback. We're going to take Baker Mayfield. And then at 3, we're going to draft Marvin Harrison Jr. And there's our quarterback for the next however many years. We're confident in that. And then there's our wide receiver, or whoever, or they trade that pick down. I feel like the free agency piece of this is what's going to be the most telling and important part of what they do come April.
And there was more reports, and this is why it's kind of weird, because there were reports saying the Patriots wanted to draft a quarterback at 3, but sign a veteran quarterback. And I totally agree with you. Baker Mayfield doesn't feel like a veteran quarterback to me. This is a guy coming off a career year that's going to get a ton of money in free agency. And if he doesn't, it's probably not going to be with the Patriots. It would probably be to stay with Tampa Bay and maybe sign a guy like Mike Evans. So for me, I don't feel like Baker's that guy that they were talking about that's like, hey, we want to take a guy that maybe is going to start 10, 11, maybe a year while we develop our 3rd overall pick. And then the 3rd overall pick is going to take over. Baker's going to want a ton of money. He's coming off a massive year for the Buccaneers, and that's going to be someone that a lot of teams are going to be interested, not just the Patriots, if the Buccaneers aren't going to re-sign him. So I agree. I don't know if this is the way for the Patriots with the rumors we're talking about, but if they do, and you move down from the 3rd overall pick, you're probably going to get 3 first-round picks, depending on who's coming up and where you're trading down from, which is going to set you up in the future. But is that what is the best for the Patriots? Baker Mayfield going on 35, 40 plus $40 million a year for the Patriots? I don't know. I thought it was kind of a contradicting report from what we had been hearing about them wanting to sign like a Jacoby Brissett or a Joe Flacco type of guy to maybe be that bridge guy. That's how I interpreted that first report, not Baker Mayfield so much.
I mean, look, when we're here in it's March now. By the time we hit April, we're going to hear every single report. You could make a checklist here of like
very true
everything, and someone's going to report that we're interested or we're kicking the tires, right? All those words on just about every free agent. So I feel like I would probably still hold faith that they're going to want this quarterback in the draft. And if they do want to sign a quarterback in free agency, I would look more toward like Jacoby Brissett or Carson Wentz, even. It's like something like that. That makes the most sense if they're not going to just throw the first round QB into the fire.
Yeah, the Jacoby Brissett one, they've thrown guys out there like Joe Flacco also make a little bit more sense to me than, say, paying Baker Mayfield $40 million. The other thing is the Patriots just cut J.C. Jackson, so they have over $101 million in cap space. Now, Gerard Mayo went back on what he previously said when he first got hired, like, we're ready to burn some cash, right? Like, they're going to spend money, but they're going to be smart about it. And I don't know if throwing $40 million at Baker Mayfield right now is the smartest thing. Now, for Tampa Bay, who has a chance to re-sign Mike Evans, still has Chris Godwin, has a really good defense and a good offensive line, it makes a little bit more sense. But for the Patriots, taking a flyer on a guy like Jacoby Brissett that's going to cost way less money than Baker Mayfield is, and letting him kind of mentor and take role for a guy like Jaden Daniels at pick 3 makes more sense. Baker Mayfield's not coming in here to be a bridge quarterback. So if the Patriots sign Baker Mayfield and you take a quarterback at 3 overall, I don't think Baker Mayfield's going to sign into that. So he's never going to want to sign with the Patriots if that's their plan. Now, maybe he wants to sign with them if say, hey, we're going to sign you, and then we're going to sign or draft Marvin Harrison Jr. at the 3rd overall pick, and then find you some offensive line help, whether it's through free agency or through the draft also. So maybe he would want to sign up with that. And then there's obviously the connection with Alex Van Pelt when he was with the Cleveland Browns. There was obviously a ton of people or support there for Baker Mayfield. That's why he was drafted 1st overall. So there's connections all over the Patriots organization. If Patriots fans want a franchise quarterback in the draft, I don't think Baker Mayfield's signing here to be a bridge guy. He's going to be here for 4 or 5 years because that's probably what he's going to get from Tampa Bay.
It totally feels like it's one or the other. I don't think it's going to be like, and like you bring up a great point there with like, he's not signing this deal if he knows that we're going to take a quarterback in the 3rd overall pick. And that's just, it doesn't make much sense, right? So I feel like they're sitting there with a choice, and the choice is where they're going to find that quarterback, because it has to happen. Look, Mac's out, Zappy's out in whatever way possible, whether it's a trade or whatever happens. Like, we're moving on. So they kind of have this one or the other. Do they go with the surefire thing and either trade down or take Marvin Harrison at 3 or collect all those picks? Or do they just take the, let's say, 50-50 gamble on taking a quarterback there and hoping that pans out? It's like the ultimate dilemma. And that's kind of what finding a quarterback is, because it's the most important position in sports for a reason, because it's the hardest thing to nail, because there's only a few of them that are going to bring you to the point you want to be at.
And if Baker Mayfield, like I'm a Baker fan. I think he did great last year. I'm high on Baker Mayfield, but I don't think the Patriots paying him 30, 35, $40 million next season coming into this roster is going to make them that much better. Now, in the long run, could it? Yeah, but then after 4 years, what do you do, right? If you bring in a guy on a rookie contract at the 3rd overall pick, he's going to be making rookie contract money. You're going to have him for 5 years there, and then you're going to have to pay him. But that gives you a little bit of flexibility to go out and make a big trade for, say, a receiver, or to re-sign a couple guys on the roster that need to be re-signed, say like Kyle Duggar, Michael Owenu, and then go grab other pieces throughout free agency. So I just don't feel like it's the guy for the Patriots to be that bridge guy. So I guess my question to you, I think you want to draft someone at the 3rd overall pick. Is that right? You don't want, like, Baker Mayfield doesn't sound like, it sounds nice and flashy, right? Oh, we're spending a lot of money on a free agent quarterback that just had a great year, but that's probably not what you want, right? That I don't want that. I would love Baker, but I don't think that's in the long run is the Patriots' best thing, in my opinion.
Every day I could flip back and forth on what I want to do. And especially it's, the more time you get to think about it, you keep going back. And I would say, like, right now, just you have, like, we have a 3rd overall pick here, which is probably the most valuable asset that this team has had in the last 5 years. Whether it's a player, a pick, anything, this is the most valuable asset we've had. I would hate to get rid of it, and maybe trading back is in our best interest, but you're right there. We're going to, fingers crossed, hope we're never in this position again where we're picking top 3. We have 3 quarterbacks, which I think most people feel pretty comfortable that these 3 guys, there's some upside. We like them, right? Like, but especially between Drake May and Jaden Daniels, like one of these two, we're thinking is going to work out. Like, just do it. Just make the pick. And if it doesn't work out, that's kind of the nature of the game. But I would hate to be in a position where you trade back, one of the two, or maybe even worst case, both end up working out, and we're sitting there with, oh, well, at least we have the 11th overall pick next year from some team. Like, that's not a scenario I want to be in.
Yeah. Most contracts agree with us. Ashton says he wouldn't mind Flacco or Brissett. Both those guys have time in Cleveland with Alex Van Pelt. Would you rather have Flacco or Jacoby Brissett on a 1-year deal?
I would say Brissett. I think out of the free agent quarterbacks, or the ones that'll be available, he'd be at the top of the list. I think it makes the most sense. He's consistently been a starter. Like wherever he goes, he ends up playing. He gives quality games, quality outings. And look, we're not going to get like, yeah, ideally you want a quarterback, a bridge guy that can come in and win. That's really hard to get. The situations that people like to point to with Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love or Alex Smith and Mahomes, those are really unlikely scenarios where they have a great quarterback already and they were fortunate enough to get another great quarterback behind them. We're clearly not in that situation. We have no quarterback and we're looking for one, maybe even two. So I feel like Jacoby has the higher upside, if you even want to use upside for a bridge quarterback, but I like him a little bit more. Another guy, I know there's like some weird contract stuff with him, but Jameis, I think that's a name to keep an eye on. I think he's going to leave New Orleans, and I think that he's one of those people that has sat for a while and is perfect for that bridge type of role.
Yeah, and there's been reports that Jameis Winston has said things like, I want to go somewhere to be a starter. So he's probably out of New Orleans, right? And, there's guys out there, Gardner Minshew, he's only 28. Jacoby Brissett's 31. Jameis, like you mentioned, is 30. So you're looking at guys, like you're going to get guys that are a little bit older. I really was intrigued by Jacoby Brissett, one, because he's been here before we drafted him. Now, obviously, it's a totally new regime, but I really thought it was interesting how Sam Howell really preached saying that Jacoby Brissett was a huge mentor for him in Washington this last year. That's what you need, right? You don't want, and I think Jameis Winston would be fun. He'd add a fun little element to this team, but you don't need someone that's going to come in here and not want to develop a guy, because Jacoby would have to understand if he's coming back here and he's coming here, it's probably to start for 1 year, maybe even just like 10, 12 games. You're here to mentor this young quarterback and then probably fall into a backup role if you even stay with the team. So I like that Jacoby Brissett already has experience with that. There was high praise from Sam Howell, who threw for a ton of yards this year, and they threw the ball a crap ton, although he had his struggles with turnovers, interceptions, things like that. You're bringing a guy in to be the bridge mentor quarterback, a guy that wants to be, I don't want to say a coach, but it's kind of like the Brian Hoyer role where they're like, an on-field coach. They're just built in as an extra quarterback coach guy, and they're just here to develop someone. So I think Jacoby Brissett would be awesome. Maybe Gardner Minshew would be a better candidate because, maybe he throws the ball better. I don't know what you're nitpicking at there and there, whatever Patriots fans want, but I think that Jacoby Brissett would just fit perfectly. He's familiar with Alex Van Pelt in the system. He probably knows he's going to be a bridge guy, maybe chasing one more payday. He could start a couple more games, and then, he's just going to be a mentor for a Jaden Daniels guy that's going to come in. So I like Brissett. I think he would be a really good option for the Patriots and not cost a lot of money either.
One thing about Brian Hoyer, I love that you mentioned him because I think that is one of the most untalked about things with Mac's first and second year is that we lost all of the veteran quarterbacks, or at least him in our quarterback room. We got younger at quarterback. Zappy became the second quarterback the next year, and it was just youth after year of youth in the quarterback room. And regardless of what we did with this pick, I wanted to get older in the quarterback room, get someone in we could have used a guy last year that was a 30-something-year-old, like just Jacoby Brissett would have been perfect for the team last year, late in the season, when we just had two guys that were inept to play the position. So I think we made a mistake losing Hoyer and not replacing that type of player, being that, like you said, on-field coach.
Yeah, and Edward is always kind of being funny in the comments. He says, Stell leftover quarterback like the Stell leftover coaching staff. That's great. It's hard to play quarterback in the NFL, especially for guys that are 22, 23, coming into the NFL for the first time. It's hard. The NFL has so many different unique coverages, blitzes than college football even does. And so to have a guy, you're spending $5 million on a backup quarterback, but that backup quarterback has experienced so many things. He can get through to the young quarterback. I agree with you. I thought the Brian Hoyer thing was a massive deal for Mac his rookie year. Just a guy that you can lean on. Hey, show me the ropes. Show me how you do this. How do you prepare for a game? How do you watch film? This and that. Like, it's important. And to have a guy that's stuck around in the NFL, like a Jacoby Brissett, like he's been through a lot of things. He's been through a lot of different schemes. He's done a lot of different playing times for different coaches, seen a lot of different personnel stuff on the defensive side. So you just can't overestimate how much a veteran quarterback is for a young guy, especially, people were talking about, hey, Zach Wilson was going to sit under Aaron Rodgers for the next 2 years in New York, and then he was going to be the next Jordan Love or whatever. And then, Aaron Rodgers gets hurt. Obviously, it's a totally different thing, but people value veteran quarterbacks and people value young guys sitting under there. I think it's no coincidence that Jordan Love had success in his rookie season. Well, not rookie season, his first year fully starting after sitting behind Aaron Rodgers. Same thing with Aaron Rodgers, right? Like, look at the Packers organization. They've done it for 2 straight quarterbacks, Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love. And both of those guys had great first years. And then Aaron Rodgers obviously had a great career in Green Bay. And we'll see what Jordan Love does. But I just think that it's so overlooked how much a veteran quarterback can help these young guys. So I think that, bringing in a guy that's a little bit more equipped for that than, say, a Baker Mayfield is more advantageous for the Patriots' long run plan. So.
And we're not going to figure it out in 1 year. That's the thing. I think we all got to kind of like step back and realize, like, it's probably not the coolest and like most entertaining way to have a quarterback room this year by filling it with veteran guys. But like, look at the free agent pool. How are we getting better? We're not going to go sign Kirk Cousins. That's probably out of the realm. Like, that doesn't make much sense. We're building something here. And that's kind of what we accepted when we gutted the staff, $100 million cap space. Like, this is a process. And part of a process is look at all of these teams that are going to be rebuilt. They start with this, right? Like either drafting a rookie or putting a Band-Aid on it with a Jacoby Brissett type player.
Yeah, it's I'm trying to think, CJ Stroud had really good success last year coming in, but Bryce Young struggled, right? Anthony Richardson was doing some good things, but he was more of a running type of quarterback last year until he got hurt. Then again, he had a guy like Gardner Minshew he could lean on. So, there's guys all around the NFL that have these type of things. And really, I think it's kind of, as of late, maybe the last 5-6 years, you just really see these quarterbacks being thrown in there. Like Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, they didn't even start their first year, even their first couple games, right? They sit behind, they were top 10 picks, and they sit behind guys like Tyrod Taylor, behind Alex Smith, right? And they sit for even 12 games. I think Josh Allen sat for 12 or 14, and they come in and they're ready to go right away. So, you're seeing some of the best quarterbacks right now in the NFL, even 5 years ago when they were drafted, not really starting year one, and it seemed to benefit them. So it might be a new thing. It might be, people just want to get them experience, but that's what it is going to. So that kind of leads us to the flip side of things. Jaden Daniels, there's reports that the LSU quarterback, 2023 Heisman Trophy winner, is reportedly gaining steam to be selected 3rd overall by the Patriots. Now, we just talked about if Baker or someone does sign, they could trade this pick down. Maybe they trade it anyways. But what are your thoughts on Jaden Daniels being the 3rd overall pick, being brought in here to be the next franchise quarterback for the New England Patriots?
This would be my pick. Like, right now, this is who I would go with. And of course, that all's in the if whatever Washington does, and we don't know, and that'll be sorted out. But I feel like it's just best quarterback available at that pick. Like, how can you not? Unless, of course, then you got to lean and trust the scouting department here and say, like, who's your guy? Who do you like? If they're like, oh, we don't like Daniels or we don't like May, and that's the guy that's sitting there, trade back, take a different player. But like right now, I think that this is the pick. Take Jaden Daniels. Don't overthink it. I think that's been the biggest problem the last few years. We're overthinking 1st round picks, trying to like fit players into a system. Look, we've stripped this whole thing down. There is no system. We got it all new. We have a quarterback development has been a constant theme with all of these offensive signings. If there was any time to bring in one, it'd be right now.
I just deleted this tweet, which sucks because I literally saved it for like for one of these live streams, and now I don't have it. Oh, here it is. Evan Lazar says Elliott Wolf had changed their grading system. It will be less role specific like the old system and more value based. And I think that goes hand in hand with what you were just saying, right? It feels like guys like Cole Strange and them, they were great scheme fits, but were they a 1st round pick? No, probably not. Bill in the old system was like, hey, who's going to fit this scheme? And, that's not all bad, but there's been so many misses with the Patriots 1st, 2nd, 3rd round draft picks. And honestly, throughout the whole thing, that it's like, oh, now they're going to say, hey, this is the best player available. Let's just go get him and let's find a way to play him. That's also what Alex Van Pelt said, is he's like, hey, you got to scheme for the players you have. You're not a good coach if you don't. So I've liked some of those things because I agree. I think it's best quarterback available. I don't know, and we'll hear more about this throughout the upcoming pro days and stuff like that, if Washington is going to actually consider Jaden Daniels at the 2nd overall pick, and then there would be a guy like Drake May available. I think both quarterbacks would be great for New England. They both bring different things. I'm a big Drake May guy. I think he's only 21 years old. He's 2 or 3 years younger than most of these top quarterbacks in the class. like Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Michael Penix, Bo Nix. I like the way he throws it. I think he has a little bit more zing than Jaden Daniels, but Jaden Daniels is going to bring a presence to the quarterback room that Patriots fans haven't seen, honestly, in their whole lives, because how long Tom Brady played and then Drew Bledsoe before that, and then Mac Jones. Maybe the year we had Cam Newton, but he's going to be way more explosive and have a lot fresher legs than Cam Newton did for that 1 year. So it will be exciting for both these guys. It honestly pains me too, because I love Marvin Harrison Jr. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is the best player in this class, regardless of position.
I 100% agree.
I just don't think we have the luxury of taking a receiver, right? It sucks because Marvin Harrison Jr. is the receiver Patriots fans have wanted since Randy Moss. Since, like, we need a number one receiver. That's the guy, and we're in a position to take him. I just don't know if it's realistic for them to take him.
I also think that finding a number one receiver and finding your team's top target is really the most cost-efficient way to do that is the draft. And you're like, look at what these receivers are getting on through these trades and free agency. The market for receivers right now is so overinflated. Like, it's almost to the level of what the quarterback market is right now, where just about anyone is getting a payday that I feel like is detrimental to a team that signs them. And I would hate to have to like result to that. Like, I don't really buy too much into the Justin Jefferson stuff. Even a guy like Mike Evans or Michael Pittman is going to get paid way more than I ever feel comfortable paying them. So if you want a receiver, then the draft is the way to do it. And I know that for so long, N'Keal Harry, Tyquan Thornton, we hate those picks, but I don't really hate Bill for putting his foot down and saying, I'm not going to the open market to buy these guys. Like, we're not going to just buy new receivers. So to the point of Marvin Harrison, I 100% agree. He's the best player in this. I would say it's as can't miss as you get. It's almost nearly 100% chance that this guy is going to work wherever he goes. Not even us, or not even us. Could he like be a Tyquan Thornton or a N'Keal Harry, right? Like,
yeah,
you don't want to even put it out in the ether, but like, so yeah, it sucks to pass on him, but it's like, we have to get this quarterback. And for a guy like Marvin Harrison, I look at that as almost like a 4-year rental. So like, there's no guarantee that we get him back after that 5th year, right? With the option. That's kind of what it feels like. Look at AJ Brown. Look at the way Stephon Diggs has kind of got, like, a lot of these receivers seem to be, all right, I play my 4, 5, 6 years there, and then I get traded. I get my payday. Tyreek Hill, another example. So it's not a long-term solution. So it basically comes down to how comfortable do you feel that you can find your quarterback in that 4 to 5 year window if you wanted to take Harrison, right?
Yeah, I agree with you. He's got to be the safest player in the draft. Like, I know we suck at drafting receivers, and hopefully that changes with the front office and the changes that we've made in the coaching staff. But man, I don't know how that guy doesn't have, I don't want to say Hall of Fame career. That's lofty, but honestly, like, that's where people's standards are for him. You hear him talking about him, like, they're saying he's better than his dad. He's obviously bigger than his dad. Like, there's just so much talk around him. So, a couple of the comments I wanted to hit on, Kevin, I agree. LSU did have better receivers than New England. I saw a post the other day that said, or it had all the teams' leading receivers by yards, and Demario Douglas was the Patriots' leading receiver at 580 something. Like, it's been sad how bad the receiving corps has been. But that goes into another thing, which I'm sure we'll talk about in the mock draft that we're about to do. Whoever you bring in at quarterback here, you can't give him the team surrounding him, whether it's the weapons, the offensive line that you gave Mac Jones. You have to put him in a spot to succeed, or no matter who you get, in my opinion, they're going to fail like Mac Jones did. Like, it's just what we did to Mac Jones and what the Patriots did to him was so bad, and that is not how you develop a young quarterback. It's just, I don't want to see them do it again. And that's why it's like, hey, they got to go spend some money, whether it's re-signing a Winu, whether it's taking a chance at, maybe a guy in the second round. Someone said Xavier Legette. It was right here. Ashton, there's a ton of receivers. This is a stat class, which we'll talk about again in the mock draft and stuff. But the other thing I wanted to talk about and ask you specifically this, a lot of people are asking, would you rather have Justin Fields, or I'll just ask you this. Are you interested in trading for Justin Fields at all?
No.
Okay, thank you. Because I did a mock draft about it just because Patriots fans wanted it. I agree with you. I think if you're going to take a Justin Fields, he's going to be on his 5th-year contract, so you're going to have to pay him that. Plus, you're going to have to either extend him or he's just a 1-year bridge guy. Just take a guy like Jaden Daniels, who I believe throws the ball better than he did coming out of college and probably is a little bit more explosive. So I'm glad someone else agrees with me.
If we were going to trade for Justin Fields, we would be in the same mindset that the Bears are right now, right? Like the reason that they're not sticking with him is because they have this golden opportunity to get younger and cheaper on the quarterback position, which is everyone wants to do. We talked about the bridge system. Well, the reason a lot of guys don't use a bridge system now is because you only have 4 to 5 years with some of these guys before that second deal kicks in.
Yep.
And if you want to win, you've certainly seen how successful you can be winning with a rookie contract for quarterback. And that is exactly what we'd have to trade for him. So we'd have to give up picks and then sign him to a new contract, presumably. Right. So that's the opposite of what we should be trying to do here. We want to get our own guy, develop our own guy. And that's just beside the point of, I also am not very high on Justin Fields as a pro anyways. So I don't think it makes much sense. You're hearing people say, oh, maybe a second rounder, maybe a third rounder, far too rich for a guy like Justin Fields, who I think we're only hype. His stock gets better by the day. And the longer he doesn't play, it's kind of like how quarterbacks, they'll end the season and then all of a sudden they're a top 3 or 4 pick. It's like, we remember in the season being like, yeah, they need to draft Caleb Williams, especially early in the year and the last few years. Like we all knew who Justin Fields was. And now here we are in March. And suddenly that conversation is like, well, maybe he can turn Atlanta around. Maybe he can turn us around. It's like, guys, come on. We know who this guy is.
Yeah, I 100% agree. It's hard for me because I think that the Bears are going to have not a high asking price, but they're going to want more than what they're actually going to get out of him. So talks could go, they could fight for a second round pick, which for the Patriots, pick 34 is so valuable. That's the second pick on day 2. Like you're either going to be able to trade that for a ton of stuff or just get a quality guy that either fell through the cracks of day 1 or, is a baller day 2 guy. Someone that comes right to like T. Higgins. He was the first overall pick in the second round when he was drafted, right? You're going to be able to get guys like that, there's just a lot of talent, especially this class. There's a lot of depth at O-line, at wide receiver. There's a lot of depth at positions. You're gonna be able to find a guy at pick 34, right? It's not like you're trading pick 60 away. It's the last pick in the second round, like the Patriots were when they were winning Super Bowls and stuff. So I agree. I think that it's really, really hard for me to buy trading for Justin Fields unless it was for like a 5th round pick. But then again, I agree with you. I don't buy into Justin Fields as a pro quarterback that can win you Super Bowls. I don't think he comes in here and makes his team that much better. So that's where I stand on Justin Fields for everyone in the comments and stuff. Low 23 says he watches film on Jaden Daniels. I don't get why everyone thinks he's good. Caleb Williams and Drake May are clearly the best too. I am very excited about Jaden Daniels because of what he offers with his legs, but I agree with you. I get it. The Patriots have the highest pick they've ever had in their draft, but if they could have just lost one more game, they would have had an opportunity to pick between Jaden Daniels or Drake May, right? They probably weren't going to get the number 1 overall pick unless they just absolutely sucked. But the Patriots are in a position where they just have to take the best quarterback out of those 3, like you mentioned earlier. And so it's kind of a crappy position, but it's also not, because at least you get one of the top 3 quarterbacks if that's what you decide to do. But then again, you don't get to choose who you want. You're kind of just left at whoever the Bears and the Commanders don't take.
Maybe it's my optimistic mind too, but like, yeah, you can look back at it and say we could have lost one more game. But I think the Texans from last year are probably happy that they didn't win that one more game. Because you don't know if maybe they would have gone with CJ Stroud, but they could have ended up like, sometimes not having the choice is the better choice. So we're guaranteed one of those 3. It almost feels like if we're going to go with the quarterback, it's out of our hands, right? Like if Drake May and Caleb Williams are great and Jaden Daniels sucks, it's like, well, he was the only one that was left there. So
yep. Then we'll get crucified because we took another bust quarterback and Marvin Harrison Jr. is a Hall of Famer, like we just talked about. And it's a lose-lose though.
That's how molded my brain is by the internet, where I'm like fighting the narratives 4 or 5 years in advance, being like, well, if we take this guy now, like we're not going to have to deal with this in however many years.
Yeah. So hopefully it's just a win. Whoever we take, hopefully it's just they have a good solid career for the Patriots, because the draft luck has been very, very, very bad for the Patriots. So,
and it's on us too. Like we know, like so much of it is, oh, hope we get lucky. Well, we got to do our part in that. And
agree.
Part of that's getting an offensive line, like you mentioned, getting the weapons, not giving them this coaching like cares, like this whole thing, like get it right from the start, and that's how it ends up well.
I've said this multiple times where at some point, missing on N'Keal Harry, missing on Tyquan Thornton, at some point it had to have been either a development issue or a bad, whoever's drafting or identifying quarterbacks or receivers was doing a very bad job, because the Steelers have hit on like 5 receivers past the 5th round, and they've all been like good contributing wide receivers. And you're telling us that they just get lucky and pick a name out of a hat? No, they're very good at developing and understanding that position. So that, for me, I agree with you. At some point, we got to get better at either who's developing these guys in camp and throughout their rookie year, or who's going and scouting them and, finding out all these things and why the Patriots are missing on these quarterbacks.
It's not like these receivers either were like, oh man, like how did they miss on N'Keal Harry? All of us remember where we were watching that draft being like, they did what? And the same with Tyquan Thornton. We all were like, oh, if they're going to take a receiver, it's George Pickens right here. Like, yeah, give the Steelers all the credit in the world for drafting the right guy. But like everyone in America knew George Pickens was better than Tyquan Thornton. And here we are being like, well, we told you so.
Yep. I agree. It's hard. It's very hard to kind of swallow that pill and stuff. So we'll have more of this draft talk as we go through. Let's start this mock draft. Guys, we're going to do PF mock draft simulator. Let's make sure I got this all set up. Yeah, it looks good. We're going to go 4 rounds. Okay, so we're going to have 4 rounds for you guys. Obviously, we're just making the Patriots pick. Here's all the settings and stuff for the Patriots. Throw your comments, whatever you want us to answer. Do you want to do trades, or do you kind of want to just roll through and talk about it, right? Because we could be here forever talking about trades.
Yeah. What have y'all done? Have you done a couple trades yet? Or have you, I think we should go straight and just.
I agree. So I release mock drafts every Monday, and stuff, pre-recorded videos and stuff. And so I've hit on every scenario, right? I've traded for Brandon Ayuk. I've traded down. So this is really just whatever we want to do. If we want to just roll through, I think that it's fine, and we can talk about the trades and stuff.
Yeah. Let's keep it simple.
Perfect. So we'll just start this right here. Okay. Obviously, how we expect it. Caleb Williams, Drake May.
Look at that.
How PFF sometimes can be really weird. Hopefully today it's not really weird, but the first 2 go off exactly how we thought it would be. Okay. So you're sitting in this situation, right? We talked about Marvin Harrison Jr. Talk me out of why we shouldn't take Marvin Harrison Jr., because I know I just saw a comment in here that was Carlos. He said drafting Marvin Harrison Jr. puts them in the same spot they were last year. Honestly, I don't believe that. We haven't had a receiver that's half as good as Marvin Harrison Jr. is on this roster since Randy Moss. Maybe the one game Antonio Brown was here. He's going to be able to run every route in the route tree. He's big, he's fast, he's physical, his body control, his hands. He's going to change the dynamic of this offense, and I don't care whoever is throwing it to him. That's going to be his number 1 option that no quarterback in New England has had for the last 8 years. So talk me out of why it shouldn't be Marvin Harrison Jr. and why the quarterback is probably the best pick here.
So I'll start with talking you in, but let me go back. So talking you out of it would be, you have to find the quarterback. It's the most important position.
I agree.
We got to find the quarterback at some point. Does Marvin Harrison give you an offense? Probably not, right? This is the biggest problem with the Patriots the last few years in the draft. They haven't added talent. They just keep whiffing on picks. And Robert Kraft has said it. We all agree. The only way to build a successful team is adding talent through the draft, right? So if you want to do that, why don't you draft Marvin Harrison, right? Like that would be adding talent. And if you're able to do that consistently with all of your picks, sure, maybe you'll miss on a guy that had a higher upside. But if you just consistently add talent, you're going to be a good football team eventually. Now, of course, the flip side of that is you add talent at the quarterback position and nothing else matters, because look at Houston last year. Odds on favorite to be top 3 pick. They win a playoff game. Quarterback can change the complexity of everything. And that is such a grand scale that you just might have to go with the quarterback. So that would be the only reason to talk you out of it. There's nothing about Marvin Harrison that isn't good, other than the fact that he just happens to play wide receiver.
I agree. And I will say, Freddie, this comment right here kind of is what I don't want to say talks me out of Marvin Harrison Jr., because there's no receiver in this class that's as good as him. But this is a deep wide receiver class. If you guys just watch the combine, there's going to be dudes in the second and third round that I think the Patriots are going to be able to take. And yeah, they're not going to be Marvin Harrison Jr.-esque, but they're going to be quality starters in my mind. And that comes back to what we were talking about, where you have to develop and you have to find a guy that you like and that you can build a system around. So are we in agreement here? We're probably going to take Jaden Daniels with the 3rd overall pick.
Yep, let's do it.
Okay. All right, let's do it. And we'll just let this roll through, kind of talk through some of the stuff. Marvin Harrison Jr., Brock Bowers got some crazy, hopefully nothing too crazy happens. Let's see. Ashton, why this is rolling, says, I'd go Daniels, but that's just me. Do whatever you want, Jace. Yeah, appreciate it.
It's your mock draft.
It is. Well, it's both of our mock drafts. That's why we're having you on. That's why we're having you on. So let's go back and look at some of the last couple picks. Okay. I saw Freddie say this. A.D. Mitchell out of Texas was a huge boost for me doing the combine. He was so impressive. He ran like a 4.35, and then obviously his teammate set the record at 4.21. He's big. I honestly think he's a faster version of T. Higgins. At Georgia, he could go up and get contested catches. You saw in the Washington game, he went up and had a couple contested catches, and especially the last touchdown they had. So that would have been a receiver I would have loved to get there. But what are positions now? Obviously, you need a receiver and you need a offensive lineman to help Jaden Daniels succeed. So what position do you think is more advantageous for the Patriots to target here?
So out of curiosity, how many receivers went in the first round?
That's a good question. So we have one in A.D. Mitchell.
It feels like this run at quarterback and receiver is going to be historic in the first round, especially with Mitchell's 40 time, which isn't it kind of funny how like the 40 time still carries so much weight after seeing Tyquan, John Ross, not saying that that's a curse, but like, yesterday I had that thought where I was like, all right, we fall back into this every single year where it's like the 40 time matters too much. All right. So receivers in the first round,
there were 7. Okay. So you have the big 3, right? That is, that would set a record, I believe, wouldn't it?
For a deep class, it is deep, but how many are really realistically going to be left there? Because we talk about like, oh, A.D. Mitchell is going to be possibly available there. Keon Coleman right there. Like there's a lot of these guys, but I feel like some people are going to reach or take them a little early just to get them. And especially in the first round where you get that fifth year deal on it. Did Ladd McConkey go in the first round?
And I'm a big Ladd McConkey guy. I agree. Yeah. Like I did a mock draft about him the other day. And I didn't say, because like you can't say he's the Puka Nacua, but he does everything right. And he just ran a 4.40. A lot of people were thinking he's going to be slower, right? He just gets open. He catches the ball. He runs every route you can. He's not going to wow you athletically. He's a little bit undersized, but a 4.40 is fast enough in the NFL. The one guy that I would say I was intrigued with that we could have taken here is Keon Coleman, but I didn't think he tested very well this week at the combine. So now you're looking
at be pretty down on him.
Yeah, do you reach for a guy like Roman Wilson, Ricky Pearsall, which I think are good? Do you take a chance at Xavier Worthy, who in my mind is not a clone, but is pretty similar to Tyquan Thornton, right? And he's just going to be able to be a burner. So I don't know. The receiver class right here maybe isn't as good as I don't love the
receivers here at this position. If this is where the Patriots were sitting, I would look elsewhere.
Okay. So
what do you think
offensive tackle?
Tackle. I think here's the thing about the draft, especially this year, there is no wrong pick as far as position goes. If you can just, again, add talent, that's a good pick. We can fill a position or fill a hole at every single position on this team right now. If the second pick off the board was a defensive tackle, we could use a defensive tackle. This team is completely deprived of talent. So I've been doing a lot of mock drafts as well. And of course, the first comment every time an offensive tackle isn't one of the first 3 picks is, oh my God, how can you not take a tackle? It's like, because we've got 8 picks and we've got like 13 positions where we've got to fill.
Yeah. And I agree with you. I've usually taken a defensive tackle or an edge rusher somewhere in the 3rd or 4th round, depending on how it goes. But I think you look at guys right here, okay? I think Tyler Guyton would be a steal at 34, right? He has size, he has length. He played tight end at TCU before he went over to Oklahoma, okay? Then you have Kingsley out of BYU, who I think is really athletic. I agree. Ashton says he would be a solid pick here. And both of those guys are going to be – so Kingsley has experience at both right and left tackle. So he's going to have, position versatility. And then Tyler Guyton's more of a right tackle, but with his length and stuff that he just measured at the Senior Bowl and the Combine, I think he would be an adequate left tackle, right? So I'd be comfortable taking either of these guys here just because, like you mentioned, we just have no depth and no talent at the offensive tackle and honestly at a lot of spots. So I'm fine taking an offensive tackle here. And then maybe if we don't like the receiver board, you look at edge rushers or defensive tackles.
Yeah, I agree. Especially what happens with Onwenu. Like if we lose him, which seems to be right now likely, if that happens, we got to get someone in there on the offensive line because it's like we've talked about, like, a few times now, like that's what sets a quarterback up for failure right there.
Yes.
So I'm in agreement. I actually love these tackles on the board right now. All those top three are three guys that I've seen in this position a lot. I think that run on receivers and quarterbacks is going to help us because it pushes down some of these tackles where the past few years in the drafts, tackles have gone off the board early. I think people were really high on Alt being a top 3 pick. Now with the amount of receivers and quarterbacks people are taking, he gets pushed down and the domino effect kind of happens where all the tackles go. So I like Guyton here.
Yep. And we'll take Guyton here. I just want to ask you this question. Carlos asks, would you be interested in trading back here, right? Like not too far. So let's look at the trades that are being offered. I'm not going to accept any of them, but right. So moving back 9 picks would probably be a little bit too far for me. But if you could gain an extra top 100 pick and move down maybe 6 or 7, there's still a lot of good guys on the board. And so I would be interested in doing that. A lot of people talk about moving down in the first, but if you can move down in the second, maybe 5 slots and then still get an extra top 100 pick, is that something you'd like? Or do you just want to just grab the talent while it's there and not have to worry about, oh, this guy's going to get drafted by then, so we probably shouldn't take him?
I know it sounds kind of boring to say, but it all depends on the board. I think if we're sitting here and we've lost Onwenu and we're like, we need someone that can protect the edge here. Like, then you're like, it doesn't matter what we're being offered realistically. Like we got to get our guy. And especially if some of these receivers fall too, there, I can see a scenario day 2 where we've got a Mitchell or a McConkey. And we're like, if we trade out of that, you're going to say, how could you lose the opportunity to do that? Or to take him?
I would be very hard if I know it happens all the time. I was so shocked when the Patriots traded down last year. Even though they still got Gonzalez, I wanted them to take him there. But if there was a guy like A.D. Mitchell or Ladd McConkey at 34 and they still traded down, even if they got him, it would just be so scary for me just because it's a huge risk you're taking. But we'll take Tyler Guyton here. One thing I want to hit on, Snives says the AZ tackle is always left for the second. Jordan Morgan, now at the Senior Bowl, he measured with under 33-inch arms. So I think he fits more of a guard spot. That's probably the only reason I wouldn't look at Jordan Morgan here, unless he was just the only tackle on the board. But then again, that's probably a guy that you trade down for. So we're going to take Tyler Guyton here. Good size, good length, good athleticism. And he's a guy that's a little bit underdeveloped, right? He's only 22 years old, I believe. So a little bit younger, a little bit. He still needs to have some technical issues figured out. And so that would be something that the Patriots would need to refine. But, we got a new staff in here, so hopefully it works. So, okay, so we start off first 2 picks. Number 3 overall, we go Jaden Daniels. We take Tyler Guyton at 34, give the Patriots a little bit of offensive line help. Okay, so you mentioned defensive line. Do you want to look at defensive line or do you want to look at receivers? Who's on the board?
We'll start with receivers here.
Okay. So this is like someone said Xavier Legette at 34. He falls here. He ran really well for his size. Devontae Walker also is a guy that had drops or problem dropping the ball at the Senior Bowl, but he can absolutely fly. So you got a couple options here. Then again, Brendan Rice, just because of his name and where he's coming from, is going to be an option. So I honestly like this receiver board a little bit more. Snives wants Roman. If Roman Wilson was here, I would 100% take him, but it looks like he got taken probably a little bit higher than
right for the Lions, right? No.
Oh, 43. So he got taken, 7 picks after us? Yeah. So another guy I really like.
These receivers are going to go so high.
I agree. So Xavier Worthy, we miss out on the combine, the fastest guy in the combine history by 2 picks. So
we need that again.
Yeah, we do. What receiver here out of these, and I can scroll down if you want a little bit more, but who would excite you?
I would say my top one here would be Legette. Maybe it's a little bit of an SEC bias, but I think he's the best available here. What is what's as far as like just best available? What does that board look like?
So you got a safety, Kalen Bullock. Braylon Trice is an interesting edge rusher out of Washington. You could double dip at tackle, but because Blake Fisher is a true right tackle, so that would make sense if you lose Onwenu. But
what does the tight end board look like? I feel like this is one of the sneakiest, biggest position needs for us.
Yep. So
Not great.
I take Ben Sinnott out of Kansas State a lot. I get him in the 4th a lot at our pick. What is it? 104. So in our 4th round, I like him. Cade Stover sometimes there. I do like the tight ends. I feel like it's a little bit rich right here for me. There's also rumors that the Patriots are interested in Dalton Schultz, right? So if the Patriots are going to go out and sign a guy like Dalton Schultz, yeah, you still need to get a second tight end because all 3 of yours are unrestricted free agents, but maybe it's not as big of a need. You're probably just going to take a guy 4th or 5th round and develop him. But I do like the tight end board. I agree with you. I think Theo Johnson also is an intriguing guy out of Penn State.
I was shocked that we didn't take one last year. I thought that was going to be one of the things, like knowing that these 3 tight ends are all going to be free agents. Gesicki could care less what happens with him. Farrah Brown, I'd like to see resign. Hunter Henry doesn't feel like they're close to resigning him. There's some words today, make of what you will, that's one of the ones on the outside of the bubble there for him to be back. But like, it's not a deep class at free agency. So yeah, I agree with you. It's a little bit much here, might be a reach. But I would definitely keep that on the top of the board.
I would too. Someone mentioned it too. I like the cornerback class, right? Dropping or cutting JC Jackson, you're going to need a little bit of a need, but you take Christian Gonzalez last year, you still have Marcus Jones and John Jones. Cornerback is someone I really target later, 5th, 6th round, because I do like Max Melton. Cam Hart is a bigger guy. I do like corner, but I agree with you. Defensive line is something the Patriots need. Brandon Dorless. Now, I don't think Tavondre Sweat's here. I don't think there's a chance he's here in the 3rd round. So maybe we should play, hey, let's respect the board because he probably won't be here. But man, him and Christian Barmore next to each other would be incredible.
I agree. I mean, it's up to you if you want to just say like, hey, this guy's not going to be here, but it'd be so hard to pass up that option. And this is where the point in the draft where I would just be like, best player available every single time. Like just consistently adding that talent. So I'll let you make the call here. Between a receiver and one of the other guys.
So let's just go receiver, right? Because then we're going to pick. I think I agree with you. D-line or corner could be in play here, but I know the fans and people are going to want us to address quarterback, running, or receiver, and then O-line, which we've already addressed 2 of them. I agree with you on the Xavier Legette. I just pulled up his official stuff. 4.39 40-yard dash, 40-inch vertical, 10-foot 6-inch broad jump. He measured in at 6'1", 220, right? So this is a little bit of a bigger bodied guy. Okay, last year he was very productive. He had 437 yards on crossing routes. Okay, he had 177 yards on go routes. He runs a pretty good route tree. I don't want to say he's a polished route runner, right? Like he's not Ladd McConkey. He's not, really good route runners like those guys. But he's also not N'Keal Harry, where all you saw in college was this guy like going up for jump balls and always in tight coverage. So I like Xavier Legette. I agree with you. I think he'd be my top one. I like Devontae Walker, but another guy that's really under the radar and he's getting Deebo Samuel comps is Malachi Corley, but it's just, can the Patriots use a guy like that? Which obviously anyone can, but you really have to game plan for a guy like Malachi Corley. He's elite when he gets the ball in his hands. You probably have to throw him a ton of screens. So maybe, with a guy like Demario Douglas, you probably are very similar with him. So I think Legette would be a true outside X or Z receiver for the Patriots.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's do it. Okay, and then that's going to take us to pick 104. So yeah, anything else?
Yeah, I would say one thing that is I've been thinking about the last few days with the receivers. I would be fully prepared for a rookie receiver and Demario Douglas to be the Patriots 1 and 2 options going into camp this year.
Yeah.
That seems very realistic. The receiver market with the franchise tags, with who's left out there, and the ability to like overpay but try not to that whole situation it's going to leave us for maybe a letdown for a lot of people in the receiver market.
Yeah, it will. And I think that with Michael Pittman Jr. would be like one of my favorite guys to sign. I don't think he hits the market. T. Higgins obviously got tagged. There's a chance to trade for him from what it sounds like. I don't think Mike Evans is going to come here. He's probably going to stay in Tampa or chase the Super Bowl. So it's like, do you want to pay Calvin Ridley $20 million, which I think Calvin Ridley's a good route runner, but you probably just take a young guy, and develop him. Or there was rumors about Noah Brown too, who had a pretty good year when Nico Collins got hurt for the Texans, but
right?
Yeah, I
Like,
agree
it's
with you.
those type of guys. Like that.
Yeah.
That needs to be the standard or expectation here for the receivers. We're not going to go get unless we draft Marvin Harrison, right? Like, we're not going to walk into camp with like, this is our number one guy. This is the guy who's getting doubled. Again, it's a process. We're going to try to hopefully hit on one here, but be prepared for Demario Douglas and to be named to be the top guys.
Yes, for sure. So, okay, we're sitting here at pick 104, last pick in our 4-round mock draft. Okay, so we've addressed 3 offense positions. Jaden Daniels at 3, Tyler Guyton at pick 34, and then we just took Xavier Legette, who I think would be still in the 3rd round. He probably could be a 2nd round because of how many teams are going to want to take receivers. So, what position are we looking at here? We've talked D-line, we've talked corner, we've talked tight end. What would be at the top for you?
I feel like just for a little bit of parity here, we got to go defense.
Okay.
We just did 3 offensive picks. I don't know if they do that, but it feels like this is the defensive move.
Yeah, probably. And the 2 spots I'd look at here would probably be interior D-line, maybe edge, depending on who's there, and then cornerback. Just because I still think we need to add a corner, right? Because the NFL is going so much 4-2-5, so you're going to need versatile corners. You're going to need versatile safeties, which we know the Patriots have. But say you want to throw a dime package on there and throw in 4 corners, there you go. You need to have a 4th corner, and I don't know if we have that right now. You have Marcus Jones, Jonathan Jones, and then Christian Gonzalez, who I think are 3 really solid corners. But if you want another guy, corner would make sense. Look, I'm looking at the D-line right now. Any names stick off? I did draft Dwayne Carter to the Patriots in a couple mock drafts ago, who I think has pretty good pass rush ability. He had 8 sacks 2 years ago, and he's a little bit more of a run stuffer, so he probably fits better next to Christian Barmore.
I feel like I always end up with Leonard Taylor in this position in that 4th round every time. And I don't know if it's just the familiarity to the name, but like those 2 every time I feel like ends up for the D-line.
Yeah, and I like Leonard Taylor too. I think I'd have to pull up his exact testing numbers. Everyone's still kind of getting him out online and stuff. I think he tested a little bit worse than people thought, which is not a reason to take him. 6'3", 305 pounds is what PFF has him listed as. Really, I mean, productive. He was better in 2022 than 2023. So I would not be opposed to him taking there. He had a 97% pass rush win percentage. Right? You think of 3rd down sets with Matt Judon, Christian Barmore, and then Leonard Taylor. If you can get pressure with 4 guys, it is going to be hard to beat teams, because if you don't have to bring a 5th defender and you can just drop other guys in coverage, that's the key to success.
I also think he's a guy that stays on the field for 2 to 3 downs, whereas there's been times where we've got Josh Uche. He is a pass rusher. When he is on run plays, teams target him.
Yes.
And finding pass rushers, and Barmore is one of them, that can stay on the field is so important. So I feel like when it comes to that position, that would be the thing that I would put at the top of the list.
And the other thing I like about him, he had 202 of his 344 total snaps in the A gap. Now, you think of Christian Barmore, he's probably going to be more of a tackle, so he's going to be more over the guard or outside shade of the guard, inside of the tackle. Leonard Taylor has more playing on the center or inside of the guard. So you talk about where these 2 are going to fit with each other. You're not really double dipping, and there's going to be a role for both of these guys. So I like Leonard Taylor. A couple other guys people are talking about. Snives asked about the Utah defensive end, Jonah Ellis. I'm actually from Utah, and I'm very familiar with Jonah Ellis. He is not here. I don't know where he went, but he's probably going to be a 2nd round pick. So he's not here. Another guy mentioned Sione Vaki out of the University of Utah. He played safety and he played running back too, but he's also not there. So those are a couple other guys that some people are talking about.
What did corner look like?
Corner is, so I like Cam Hart and Max Melton. Cam Hart, it's a little bit of a bigger guy. He measured in, he's 6'2". I think he was like 6'2.5", maybe a little bit more. And he tested very well for his size. So if you want to be traditional and have bigger corners, Cam Hart and Christian Gonzalez on the outside, then you could keep John Jones and Marcus Jones on the inside. So that would intrigue me also.
I feel like we learned last year that you can't have too many corners, especially now. Like, there was a point last year where we had no corners after walking into the season saying, oh my God, we're stacked at this position. We have so many guys that are so versatile. And then an injury happens here, an injury happens there. situation with JC Jackson, and all of a sudden Miles Bryant is guarding their best receiver. So I feel like that's actually the position that the Patriots are going to target, is upgrading the slot corner position. I think they're going to look for a big physical guy, but the slot is going to be a little bit more of what they look to do. I do think they re-sign Miles Bryant, but they're not going to guarantee that to be the long-term solution, because we've seen that Jonathan Jones can play a little bit in there and he plays on the outside, but I feel like that's a key position for them to want to upgrade.
Yeah, and I like Max Melton, talking of a true slot guy, right? That's going to fit in there. 5'11". He ran a 4.39. He had a 40.5-inch vert and an 11'4" broad jump. So more of a guy that's going to fit inside, right? Because John Jones has had success at outside corner, so there's no need to move him, right? If you're not good, if you don't feel like you need to take a bigger bodied guy, no need to move Jonathan Jones. Keep him there. So a slot corner, for me, that would intrigue me here would be Max Melton. I think in my mind, it would come down to Max Melton, or I would be totally fine taking Leonard Taylor also. It just depends on if you want to take front seven or secondary.
I would go with front seven on this.
Let's do it. I agree. I think, and these two could, like, corner and defensive line could be the next two addressed easily, right? So you could go Leonard Taylor here and then take a corner still in the fifth. Now, I know we also talked about a tight end. A tight end's got to come in. Freddie also threw in there that he thinks we need to get a running back. I like the running back class. Now, I don't think in the fourth, but taking a late round guy, I think whether it's a pass catcher, would probably be something the Patriots would also look at. They seem to take a lot of running backs out of a later round. So there's a lot of positions that we still haven't addressed that you could go and take in these fourth, fifth, or sixth rounds. And then also you could always just double dip at receiver, offensive tackle, because you do need talent at those positions still, even with taking a second and third round pick.
One thing that I've tried to get out of my mind every mock draft is that whatever you think you know, forget it, because this should look a little different. So I've thought about the running back situation and been like, we're so good at finding that running back in the third or fourth round. That's a year before the starter hits free agency. We let that guy walk. We bring the other one in, and it just keeps this revolving door, this rotation of these great running backs cycling through. Are we still going to be able to do that? Was that a Belichick thing? Was that someone else? I don't know. So I do think that running back, I could see running back as early as third round in this draft. I feel like that is a legitimate need. Again, everything's a need, but if they're sitting there in the third round with a, and I don't know who that would look like, but I could see it really anywhere from third to seventh. No position would surprise me at any point.
Yeah, for sure. So we're going to go with Leonard Taylor here. I like that call out by you. I thought that's a good one. A guy that's going to fit next to Christian Barmore a little bit better than some other guys would, that are true pass rushers, really twitched up interior defensive line guys. So that wraps up the mock draft. We'll let this finish, and then we'll let you guys throw grades in the comment and last thoughts before we kind of wrap up this live. So Jaden Daniels at pick 3, Tyler Guyton at pick 34, which honestly might be my favorite pick of the draft. I think with his size and stuff, he could be gone by then. Xavier Legette is also a great value at pick 68, especially with how he just tested, and then a little bit of front seven help in Leonard Taylor. So throw down what you guys think, one, either we should have changed or what you would grade this draft, and then we'll kind of react to you guys and stuff. So, but what do you think? What would you grade this draft? PFF graded it a B, obviously. They're Jaden Daniels as a C- just because they have him ranked 22nd on the big board. I don't think people would actually give the Patriots that because they know how much we need a quarterback.
This would be the most inspiring thing to walk away with after 4 rounds. Like, you hit all the positions. You get to say, we got the quarterback, we got the wide receiver, and hope and pray that it works out. So if this is what happened, I would be completely satisfied with it. As far as a grade would go, I would bump it up PFF. I would go higher than a B, maybe like a B+. Yeah,
that's exactly what Ashton says. B+. Yep.
Yeah, didn't get every guy we wanted, but still walked away with the positions and the best available for those at each point.
Yeah, right. You can't give it an A, because if it was an A in my mind, you would have gotten A.D. Mitchell at pick 34, and then you would have been able to find another quality tackle at pick 68, and then maybe you stick with Leonard Taylor at 104 and stuff. And so I like it. I think that it's a pretty good draft. Now, again, all this stuff can change because maybe the Patriots go out and do sign a Calvin Ridley. So maybe they're not in the receiver market. Maybe they do go out and sign Michael Onwenu back and then take a Jonah Williams for the Bengals or something. Or there's been rumors that they want to sign like a bridge guy like Tyrone Smith. That's a vet guy that can play snaps at left tackle. And then you take a second round receiver in here. So all this stuff is going to change. That's why mock drafts are so funny. I shouldn't say I love. It's so funny to go back and look 3 days after I post my mock drafts on YouTube, how crucified I get because of the ideas I'm throwing out there or the players I'm suggesting the Patriots take or just talking about. And it's like, guys, none of this stuff is like even remotely going to be accurate even after free agency. Now, maybe, the Patriots get Jaden Daniels, but we're just here talking about some other things and want to talk about players the Patriots could get. But I agree with you. I'd be really excited if this was the Patriots draft through 4 rounds.
It's kind of funny how that works when we're like in March. Everything always feels too early. And we're sitting here in March being like, we haven't even gone through free agency, which can change the entire way we view this mock draft. And we're like, well, we need this and we need this. It's like, there's so many steps to this process. Like, I know that I've gotten killed a few times. I'm doing a collab right now where it's like a realistic position at each free agent. And I did like Jakeem Grant, and people were like, there's no way we signed that guy. It's like, well, who else are we going to sign in this receiver class? So,
well, it's funny too, because I feel like Patriots fans want the Patriots to spend all 101 million of their free agency or of their cap space, but I don't think people realize how much money that is. Like, that is a ton of money. I don't expect them to use all of that, because then it just carries over into next year, right? Like, it's not use it or lose it. You're going to be able to keep it. I expect them to sign good players on good contracts and use the cap space they need to. And obviously they're blessed and have a great situation they're in with all that cap space, but I don't think people realize how much $101 million is. So thinking we could go sign Baker Mayfield, Michael Pittman, all these guys and stuff, is like, I just don't know if that's really.
It's kind of funny how that seems to be the collective, like, let's go. And maybe it's just the internet being a misconception of what actually people think. But it's so much of like, well, let's just go get this free agent. Let's sign this one. It's like, we did this in 2021 where we bought a new team, and it worked in some places, but certainly failed in others. I don't know if I'm willing to just do that same method again, because I don't really know any team that has ever in the course of NFL history gone to free agency, bought a new team, and then, oh, that was a long-term success plan.
Yeah, you got to develop and build through the draft. Like, free agency is there to fill in the holes and stuff, but you can't just buy a team in free agency. You got to develop, and that's honestly why the Patriots are in the situation they are, is because of how bad the last 4 drafts have been. Most of the first and second round picks aren't even still on the roster, didn't even make it like 3 years. So there's huge holes in there. And so, yeah, signing free agents is nice and stuff, but you got to build through the draft. And I think this would be a great start. So appreciate you coming on though, Grant. This was awesome to have you. We'll have to have you on another time, or, maybe during the draft. We always do a live show during the draft, so I have to have you come on at some point. But yeah, guys, make sure you follow him on Instagram. It's Patriots Red Zone, right? So if you want more Patriots content there, he's got it right on his screen, right by his name. So make sure you guys follow him there. But anything else before we wrap off? Appreciate you coming on.
I think it's the most exciting offseason we've had in a long time. So for better or for worse, we've got a lot to talk about, and it makes it really easy to be a Pats fan page at this point.
And it's honestly just starting, right? Like, I love the draft process. I've been doing mock drafts since like January, but now you have the Senior Bowls done, the Combine's done. You're going to have pro days, free agencies coming up. There's still so much to talk about. And so, yeah, like mentioned, it's fun. If you guys want more Patriots content, make sure you guys like, subscribe, and comment to my YouTube, which you're on right now. Follow both me and Grant on Instagram, because that's where you'll probably get the most up-to-date news. And then we'll keep doing live streams and videos and stuff on the YouTube that you can come back and look at. So, I think that it's exciting. Like you mentioned, got to be the most exciting and most, it could be the biggest offseason in Patriots franchise history.
We have to nail it.
Have to for sure. So appreciate you coming on, guys. Use our code Patriots Drive at SeatGeek. That's in the top right corner right now. And then if you are into a little bit of sports betting, want to win some money, it's just Pats Drive at Underdog Fantasy. You guys can win some money there, support the channel, and then again, like, subscribe, and comment. So appreciate you coming on, and appreciate all the support in here. Everyone that tuned in was here for most of the time. Everyone that commented. Snives, good to you're kind of a new name, so glad you were here. Freddie, and then obviously Carlos, Ashton, Zach, all these guys that were in here that we've seen before. Appreciate all you guys' support. So make sure you follow us on Instagram and YouTube. And until next time, we'll talk to you guys later.
Thanks for listening to this edition of the Patriots Drive podcast. Follow us on social media to stay up to date with all things New England Patriots. Make sure you tune in to the next episode and check out patriotsdrive.com for more great content.
We're on to Cincinnati.